Yoichi is an overpowered yet lonely samurai who has spent his entire life training in the mountains. However, when he goes to the city and joins a dojo filled with hot chicks, he uses his samurai riz to win them over and starts clapping everyone. It all starts on the day Yoichi is training in the mountains with his father but easily bodies the old man, making him realize that Yoichi surpassed him. As they return home, the man tells Yoichi that he can't teach him anything anymore, so Yoichi must head to the city to experiencing new things so he can stop being a socially awkward gooner. After Yoichi sets out for the city, the old man sends a letter to his niece's dojo, asking her to take care of his son because he's mentally challenged like every One Piece fan. Immediately, the dojo master, Ibuki, and her sisters, Ayame, Chihi, and Kagome, hold a meeting to discuss this, and Ayame refuses to live under the same roof as a boy. However, the other girls are fine with it because they'll chop his sausage off if he tries to diddle them. So Ayame is forced to accept. Meanwhile, Yoichi arrives in the city and is amazed by the view. But people think he's a cheap cosplayer because he's still in his samurai clothes. As he pulls out his map to find where he'll be meeting with the girls, he bumps into a guy named Washizu and loses the map. Washizu is the infamous strongest delinquent in the city. But when he kicks Yoichi's sword to bully him, Yoichi smacks him in the face and sends him flying. However, Yoichi gets arrested for swinging a weapon in public, but the officers notice that he's just a clueless dork and let him go with a warning. Now, without the map, Yoichi runs around aimlessly to find the meeting spot where the girls are waiting for him. However, Ayame gets bored of waiting and decides to go shopping, prompting Chihi to go with her. Kagome also says that she has to go pee, so Ibuki tells her to go alone while she waits for Yoichi. At the same time, Yoichi enters the mall and decides to get to the top floor to get a good view. Seeing an escalator for the first time, he nervously steps on it, but the plot gods do their magic and send him to the women's changing room, where Ayame is trying on a new dress.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Before she can scream, he immediately covers her mouth like a Riz daddy, and she starts using force to escape his grip. However, Yoichi ends up honking her horn, so she kicks his family jewels and sends him outside. She then starts screaming slurs at the top of her lungs, and the security guards arrive to arrest him. However, when he sees a guy stealing an old woman's purse, he quickly runs after him into the bookstore. There, he bumps into Chihi and immediately takes a taste test of her cookie. But before he can explain himself, he spots the thief again and runs after him, finally cornering him in the alley. Yoichi then uses the wind impact of his sword to knock the guy out and leaves him there for the police to catch. After that, Yoichi continues his search for the girls when he runs into a crying Kagome, who couldn't find her way back from the toilet. After comforting her, he promises to help her find her sister. And when he asks Kagome what her sister looks like, Kagome tells him her sister has massive bazookas on her chest. After some looking around, she finally spots Ibuki. But before Yoichi can call her out, the police officers show up, demanding that he let the girl go. However, Yoichi awakens his inner Spider-Man and swings towards Ibuki, dropping Kagome in her arms before taking an exit from the window. He lands directly on top of a train, which takes him on a tour of Japan, and by the time he returns, he is depressed because the girls must have already left by now. Just then, Ibuki walks up to him and asks if he's Yoichi, and after he says yes, she grabs his hand and introduces herself as the instructor at Ikaruga Dojo. She tells him she's come to pick him up, and while Yoichi gets mesmerized by her massive milk packs, the police officer suddenly shows up and puts him in handcuffs. However, Yoichi feels guilty about the chaos, so he returns to the mall and apologizes to the shop owners, prompting the officer to let him go. After that, Ibuki takes him home, and after seeing that he's met all of them already, he announces that he's looking forward to living with them. Later that night, the girls gather on the porch, and Ayame starts ranting that she won't accept Yoichi because he fiddled with her jugs. She also reminds everyone that Yoichi tried to get freaky with Chihi as well. But the girls believe it was just an accident, and Yoichi is a good guy at heart. Ibuki also points out that he helped Kagome when she was lost, and Ayame is forced to accept him. The following day, Ibuki wakes up early and hears some noise coming from the dojo. She opens the door to see Yoichi swinging his sword, and his technique is so elite that she wishes he used his other sword on her. Upon seeing her, he apologizes for coming in without permission, but she tells him it's fine and praises him for putting in work. He then notices the water bucket in her hand and offers to help her clean, and this leads to a tug-of-war between them, causing the water to spill on her. Seeing her in this state makes Yoichi's soldier wake up, and to make things worse, She finds a poem he wrote about her peaches, which makes her upset. She sends him flying straight into Ayame's room, and he ends up locking her into the caveman position by sheer coincidence. As Chihi and Kagome arrive, Ayame quickly pushes him off, and the guy gets another beating from Ibuki for diddling with them. Despite that, he keeps his stance during breakfast, noting that he's suffered harsher beatings during his time in the mountains. When Ibuki asks if he needs more beating, he quickly tells her he's had enough and then turns to Ayame, who's carrying her cell phone. She tells him to pay for her window or live on the porch, and Ibuki wonders if letting this fool in was really the right call. Just then, she announces that they're getting late for school, and Yoichi happily tags along because it's his first time going to school. Ayame asks if it's really okay, but Ibuki says she has no choice because his father asked her to. Just then, Yoichi says he always wanted to go to school, so he is grateful to them for making his dream come true. However, Ayame tells her not to diddle with any girls in school and runs off because she doesn't want to be seen with this freak. Meanwhile, in school, everyone keeps their distance from Washizu, who's the same guy Yoichi ran into yesterday. Even though he's considered the strongest by others, he feels frustrated because Yoichi defeated him without even touching him. Then suddenly, he sees Ibuki walking towards him and hides behind a tree while blushing. However, when he sees his crush accompanying the guy who beat him up, he realizes he's going to get cucked. Later, Yoichi moves into the same class as Washizu, but everyone thinks he's a dork for wearing samurai attire to school. When the teacher asks if he knows Ibuki, Yoichi casually says he's living with her, much to her embarrassment. Washizu, on the other hand, is enraged and starts tweaking. But when Ibuki chuckles at him, he assumes he just blew his chances of clapping her. During break time, the girls start shipping Ibuki with Yoichi since they live together, but Ibuki gets frustrated and returns to class. That's when she sees some pick-me thoughts trying to rizz Yoichi up, and this makes her angry for some reason. As Yoichi starts fantasizing about them stacking donuts on his sausage, Ibuki pulls him away and tells him to stop drooling over other chicks. Just then, Washizu walks by and hears the lecture, but it makes him think that Yoichi is mistreating his queen. Not ready to accept this, he walks up to Yoichi and challenges him to a duel. Meanwhile, Ayame is getting lectured by her teacher for having low grades, reminding her that her sisters are doing much better than she is. Before Ayame can respond, she hears some students mention that Washizu is fighting a dorky samurai boy, so she runs outside to watch the duel. As everyone watches from a distance, the boys stand face to face, and Yoichi notes that Washizu looks more composed than he was during their last battle. Washizu tells him he'll teach him a lesson for hurting his queen. But when Yoichi acts confused, Washizu gets angry and punches him in the face. Despite taking a clean hit, Yoichi stands firm and praises Washizu's strength. Out of respect for his opponent, Yoichi puts his sword to the side and agrees to a fist fight. But this only angers Washizu further. Without any warning, he pulls out Star Fist from the Elden Ring universe and lands a deadly strike on Yoichi. However, the guy stands up again and destroys Washizu's weapon with a swift chop before insulting him for using a weapon in a fist fight. He then kicks Washizu down and tells him to train for 1,000 years so they can have a pure fist fight. Seeing this shocks the whole school, especially Ayame and Ibuki, who finally realize that Yoichi is a fine swordsman. Meanwhile, Washizu believes he'll now be written off like a filler character, but Ibuki gives her a handkerchief and says she wants him to go fists only as well. After she leaves with Yoichi, Washizu assumes Ibuki is a gentle queen who's stuck with a diddler like Yoichi, so he vows to beat him one day and free her. That evening, Yoichi comes down with a strong fever, and while the girls worry for him, he keeps yapping about getting defeated by city life. Feeling bad for misjudging him, Ayame decides to make dinner for him, but acts like she's doing it for herself. Meanwhile, after Ibuki forces him to take medicine and leaves to get groceries, Chihi reveals that Ibuki has raised them all from a young age. Oftentimes, she comes off as very strict, but she always does what's best for them, which is why everyone respects and loves her. Hearing this, Yoichi decides to apologize to her when she comes back, not knowing that she feels bad for yelling at him. Meanwhile, Ayame turns the kitchen into a nuclear facility, but when Kagome sees her struggling, she offers to help her cook. Together, they finally create something edible, and Ayame hugs Kagome, thanking her for everything. She then rushes to the living room with the food, but Yoichi is already sitting on the porch waiting for Ibuki to return. Once she does, she starts screaming at him for not staying in bed, but they both apologize to each other at the same time. This makes them both laugh, but Ayame thinks her moment was stolen and runs upstairs. As Yoichi follows her, she tells him to leave her alone and recalls how Ibuki was always the best at everything and got all the attention. Just then, she trips on the stairs and is about to spill the porridge, but Yoichi jumps in to grab it, causing him to fall out of the window. She rushes outside and sees him landing safely, so she tells him that he can eat it if he wants. Yoichi immediately tastes and tells her it's amazing, and this makes her really happy. Yoichi then tells her to smile often because she looks better with it, but she kicks him in the face out of embarrassment. The following day, two girls named Tsubasa and Angela arrive in the city, and while Tsubasa is admiring the view, Angela asks her to stay focused because she needs to take out her target, who is none other than Yoichi. She adds that she is excited to bring out Tsubasa's Tsubame Benten style to light, only to turn around and see that Tsubasa has run away. Meanwhile, Ibuki and Yoichi are cleaning the dojo, and Ayame tags along with them, which is rather unusual. When Ibuki asks her if she's okay, Ayame tells her to shut up and recalls how Chihi told her last night that Ibuki and Yoichi are in the same class, so she should try to spend more time with Yoichi in the dojo. Just then, Yoichi spots her looking at him and asks if she needs something, but she quickly diverts her eyes and gets flustered. She then runs out of the room, and while Yoichi believes she left for a jog, Ibuki notices that something is definitely wrong with her. Later in school, the teacher brings in a new transfer student who turns out to be Tsubasa. All the boys immediately drool over her, and when Yoichi calls her cute, Tsubasa rearranges his face for giving attention to other girls. Unbeknownst to them, Angela is watching them from afar and recalls how Tsubasa wanted to enroll in the same school as Yoichi. Angela thinks Tsubasa is closing in on Yoichi to backstab him at the right moment, but Tsubasa just wants to live a normal schoolgirl life. During break, Tsubasa is approached by her classmates who want to become her friend, and this makes her happy. But when they ask her questions about her past, she freezes in place because she can't possibly tell them she's a martial artist who lived in the mountains. As everyone waits for answers, a class delinquent kicks a soccer ball in her direction. When she deflects it on pure instinct, everyone recoils in shock, which makes her think that she can never have a normal life. In that moment, Yoichi walks up to her, praising her skills, and asks what kind of training she had growing up. Just then, Ibuki steps in and stops him from diddling with her before introducing herself as the class president. After that, Yoichi introduces himself as well, and Angela, who's watching from outside, is impressed, thinking Tsubasa became friends with her target so quickly. Following that, Yoichi helps Tsubasa get acquainted with school activities before seeing her off. As Tsubasa happily walks outside, she bumps into some seniors who immediately start to bully her, only for Washi to become her knight in shining armor. After he leaves, she immediately falls in love with the dude and starts jumping around until Angela appears to ask how her mission went. She hesitantly says she didn't get the chance to defeat Yoichi, but Angela reminds her how important it is for her to take out Yoichi. Turns out, her family's fighting style is nearing its end, and someone has promised to fund their dojo if they take out Yoichi. Once again, Tsubasa makes a run for it because she doesn't want to fight the first friend she made in school. She then runs into Yoichi and Ibuki, but Angela catches up and exposes Tsubasa's plots, including the fact that she's the head of Tsubame Benten's style and has come to challenge him to a duel. After stopping him from drooling, Ibuki rushes to grab Tsubasa's clothes and realizes they're quite heavy. Just then, Tsubasa starts attacking Yoichi and notices from her eyes that all emotions have left her soul. Angela then reveals that Tsubasa is a shy girl who can't reveal her strength in public, so she's trained her to block out all of her emotions once her embarrassment reaches its peak. Now using all of her strength, Tsubasa keeps attacking Yoichi, but he refuses to fight back without knowing the reason behind their duel. Just then, Washi shows up and asks what's going on, which makes her stop immediately. Washi then assumes that Yoichi is two-timing with Tsubasa, so she puts her jacket on her and promises to beat Yoichi up on her behalf. Before Yoichi can explain anything, Tsubasa begins to cry and runs off, so Angela tells him that the battle isn't over before running off. Later, Tsubasa tells her that she is super embarrassed about having her plots exposed in front of Washi, and all she ever wants is to live an ordinary life. She continues crying as she declares her hate for martial arts and Angela. So Angela finally realizes she went too far and leaves her be. She heads straight to the dojo, where she introduces herself to Yoichi and challenges him to a duel. She then leaps towards him, and after they exchange the first blow, Yoichi accidentally strips her entire plot armor off. As the others show up, Angela asks Yoichi to continue the duel, but the jiggle physics of her gigantic bazookas make him freeze in place. Ibuki then asks why she and Tsubasa are after Yoichi, and she finally reveals they're getting paid to end him. After mentioning that it's to revive their dojo's fighting style, she attacks him with her Wolverine hands, but Yoichi locks her fingers in his hand, telling her that it's foolish to revive their dojo using money from a shady person. He then mentions how Ibuki's dojo has only a few students, but she takes pride in her teachings because numbers and money don't matter. The only thing that matters is the pride of her style. He adds that she and Tsubasa both have amazing skills, and they must not lose sight of their true purpose. This finally hits the strings in her heart, so she leaves and runs into Tsubasa outside. Tsubasa immediately runs into her arms crying and apologizes for what she said earlier, adding that she doesn't want to hurt Yoichi because he's her friend. At that moment, Angela tears up, realizing that she robbed Tsubasa of her childhood for selfish reasons and promises to serve her well from now on. The following day, as Yoichi walks home from school, Ibuki starts blushing and thanks him for what he said about her to Angela. Before he can respond, Tsubasa comes running in and reveals that she's been working part-time to support herself in the city. They also spot Angela working in a restaurant, and she thanks Yoichi for showing her the right path, promising that they will revive their fighting style and be proud of it like him. Just then, Washizu shows up at the restaurant, and Tsubasa starts panicking before returning him the jacket he had given her the other day. Washizu tells her to just throw it away, but she begs him to let her keep it, making her think she must be really poor. He then tells her to have it if she wants, and this makes Tsubasa really happy. Yoichi then wishes the girls good luck, and Ayame looks at him in awe. Meanwhile, the man who had placed a hit on Yoichi arrives in the city and vows to find other ways to flatline him. A few days later, Chihi is sitting on the porch, talking with her manga publisher on the phone. Meanwhile, Ibuki and Yoichi are sparring in the dojo, while some young students learn by watching them. Before this, Ibuki had asked him for help, and when a boy asked if he was strong, Ibuki told him Yoichi was stronger than her. Yoichi was a little hesitant because he had never used her sword for show, but Ibuki insisted because she wanted him to use his sword on her. At present, the two are going toe-to-toe, and Yoichi decides to go all out of sheer respect for her. However, he ends up slicing her uniform and exposing her jugs, so Ibuki beats up everyone, including her students. After she sends them off, Yoichi jokes that she only has 4 students because she's a violent teacher, and Ayame agrees with him. However, when Ibuki starts arguing, Amane leaves her be and heads to the shower. Inside the tub, she moves her fingers to match the position of Yoichi and Ibuki's sword. But Chihi sneaks in and asks if she's lost her mind. Ayame gets startled and asks why she's here, so Chihi tells her she's out of ideas for her manga and wants to take a bath to freshen up her mind. She then asks Ayame if something happened between her and Yoichi, given the fact that she's been acting super nice around him. But Ayame denies having any interest in that idiot. This gives Chihi an idea, so she leaves the bath to get some data on Yoichi. Meanwhile, Washizu arrives at the dojo to return the handkerchief that Ibuki once lent him, and he expects her to fall in love with him just by this action. However, as he steps inside, he suddenly sees that his shoes are dirty and he's dressed like Mark Zuckerberg, so he runs back home to put on new clothes. Later, Yoichi wonders why Ibuki is so violent, when Chihi suddenly appears and drags him to her room. There, she shows him the manga she has been working on, and the guy is mesmerized by how good a storyteller she is. After reading it through, he tells her that he can't wait for the next part, but Chihi gets excited and starts giving him spoilers. She then backs off, admitting that she got carried away because she's never had the chance to hear a guy's opinion, but Yoichi is happy to see her being so lively for the first time. Hearing this, Chihi suddenly gets closer and asks if he's dating someone, but he says he's always lived alone with his dad. She then buries his arm into her peaches and asks if he likes someone before getting uncomfortably close to his face. Following that, she gently tells him to feel her heartbeat and slowly unbuttons her shirt, telling him to do whatever he wants with her. Despite being tempted, Yoichi proves that he's a true virgin like you by pushing her away and telling her that he came here to train and not to lose his V-card. He also tells her to do these things with someone she truly loves. But Chihi bursts out laughing and reveals she only wanted to note his reaction to see what kind of a man he is. Yoichi gets upset and is about to school her, but Ibuki barges into the room and asks Chihi if she's okay. Chihi lies that Yoichi tried to diddle with her. So when Ibuki beats him up, Chihi comments that Ibuki is just jealous and closes the door, leaving Ibuki even more frustrated. However, Ibuki notes that she has never seen Chihi this happy, so she decides to let this incident slide. She adds that Chihi goes to school and also works part-time, which leaves her with no room to enjoy her life. So Ibuki thanks Yoichi for helping her relieve some stress. That evening, Ayame asks Chihi what she did to Yoichi, but she simply notes that Yoichi is a good man and advises her not to put a brake on her own feelings. That night, while Yoichi wakes up to use the restroom, he sees that Chihi is still working. The following day, Kagome returns home to find Ibuki chasing Yoichi for accidentally feeling her jugs. Amid the chaos, Yoichi accidentally bumps into her and ends up breaking something she had created in art class. When she starts to cry, Ibuki gets angry and kicks Yoichi out of the house before comforting Kagome. When Yoichi begs her to let him in, Ibuki opens the door and tells him to deliver Chihi's notebook to her while she fixes Kagome's art project. Accept the job, he ends up outside Chihi's school, hoping to redeem himself by being useful. However, he casually walks into the girls' changing room and earns himself a beating. Meanwhile, Chihi is in class, making notes on a sheet of paper because her notebook is with Yoichi. Her teacher calls her out in front of the whole class, but everyone's attention shifts to the commotion outside, where Yoichi is running for his life. Later, Chihi meets him in the hall and receives her notebook from him, admitting that she forgot it at home because she stayed up all night working on her manga. He notes that she must really love manga, and she admits she does and adds that manga is the only thing she takes seriously in this world. She then thanks him for the help and runs off, and Yoichi is happy because this encounter brought him a little closer to her. Back at the dojo, Ibuki is in the middle of repairing Kagome's art project. She admits that things have been a little chaotic because of Yoichi, but she admires him because he's amazing with the sword. Later, as Yoichi is about to leave school, he overhears some of Chihi's classmates talking badly about her, which makes him angry. Suspecting that they did something, he rushes back to the class to find Chihi holding her torn manga pieces. He decides to beat the boys up, but she tells him it's fine since he has some time before the deadline and asks him to leave before someone sees him. She then locks herself inside the classroom and starts crying because she's super passionate about her work, and others don't take her seriously. Yoichi hears her cry from the other side, so he awakens his inner Itachi Uchiha and beats the living bejesus out of the guys who tore her manga. Later, Chihi walks out and sees the boys kissing the dirt, but instead of making fun of them, she wishes they find their passion in this world. Later, Ibuki finally restores the broken art project, and even though it doesn't look the same, Kagome likes this more because Ibuki fixed it for her. Just then, Chihi reveals that she finished drawing the protagonist for her next one-shot, and she has based it on a superhero who beats up bullies in school. Even though Yoichi denies having anything to do with it, Chihi says she will show her appreciation to this hero by telling his story to the world through manga. Just then, Yoichi notices that his hand has blistered from holding the sword too long, and Chihi says her hand is blistered too from working too much. She then locks hands with him and says it's proof of their love before running off to fax her manga. This leaves Ibuki and Ayame jealous, so they crack his coconuts for trying to get freaky with Chihi. A few days later, Yoichi is walking to school with Ibuki, noting how every day is a new experience as a schoolboy, and he's still not used to it. Just then, 3 bimbos walk up to Yoichi, and one of them, named Hinagata, approaches him to hand him a letter. After she runs away with her friends, the boys around him start freaking out and reveal that Hinagata rivals Ibuki in popularity. However, the idiot assumes she handed him a duel challenge instead of a love letter and gets eager to fight her. Later in class, Ibuki reads the letter for Yoichi and finally tells him that Hinagata is asking him out on a date. Once again, Yoichi assumes that date is just a fancy word for duel, so he asks Ibuki to explain what it means. However, Ibuki gets flustered and gives him a dummy's guide to love. After reading it, Yoichi starts acting like a Pocky, but Ibuki smacks him in the head and storms off, leaving him confused. Ibuki then starts tweaking in the halls, but then realizes that Yoichi genuinely doesn't have any idea about love, so she returns to stop him from paying alimony for the rest of his life. She then asks him to go on a date in front of the whole class, and all his cringe classmates start freaking out. However, Ibuki adds that he is a complete moron when it comes to women as of now, so she wants him to go on a practice date with her first. After returning home, she tries on different dresses to see which one makes her look more smashable. As she pauses to ask herself why she's trying so hard for a fake date, Chihi and Kagome enter the room and ask if she's losing her V-card tonight. Ibuki says she's going to buy groceries and runs outside, only to trip on the stairs like an idiot. Later, she meets up with Yoichi in the city and realizes she never showed him around since he got here. She turns to ask if he wants to go somewhere, only to see Yoichi issuing an open challenge to anyone who can fight him. Ibuki smacks him in the head and drags him out of there to a clothing store so he can stop dressing like a samurai. She then shows him that he looks good and ends up pressing her plots into his back, which makes him blush. She then notices a section of cute plushies and starts checking them out. But when Yoichi catches up, she gets nervous and moves on because she doesn't want Yoichi to think she's immature. Meanwhile, Amane is out shopping with her friends, and one of them tells her that she'd be a perfect 10 if she had bigger milkers. As Ayame squeezes her friend's jugs to punish her, her other friend notices Ibuki in the store. Once Ayame sees her with Yoichi, she suddenly runs off without explaining anything. Unaware of this, Ibuki takes Yoichi to a bowling alley. But the man ends up throwing it like a baseball, so she teaches him to roll it down the alley. However, she quickly realizes she's too close and apologizes. But he ends up dropping the ball on his foot. As he rolls over, he accidentally glimpses at Ibuki's cookie cover, and she starts smacking him on the spot. Soon after, the owner comes in and yells at them for disturbing others, while Ayame watches this from a distance. She starts to wonder what these two are on about. But Chihi and Kagome suddenly join her and note that it looks like a proper date. The girls then take a seat to watch them all. But Ayame suddenly gets up and says it's best not to interrupt them. After she leaves, Chihi stays to investigate and watches closely as Ibuki gently teaches Yoichi how to play the game properly. Unbeknownst to them, someone else is watching them with evil intent and mistakes them for a real couple. The man quickly informs his shady boss, who orders his lackey to break up the relationship and finish off Yoichi. Meanwhile, Washizu is in the area with his friend Tori, and they spot Ayame walking alone while looking sad. When Tori mentions that Ayame is Ibuki's younger sister, Washizu starts imagining her as a sister-in-law and tells Tori to stay away from her. Back in the mall, Ibuki and Yoichi get ice cream, do karaoke, and visit Tsubasa's restaurant to have some ramen. On their way back, they talk about their day, and Ibuki notes how he looks like a normal boy in regular clothing. She also sees a couple holding hands and tries to hold Yoichi's. But when he turns to ask her something, she gets flustered and falls into the fountain. Yoichi quickly moves to save her, but they both end up getting drenched. Yoichi quickly backs off and apologizes because he expects another beating. But Ibuki starts laughing as she always ends up in trouble around him. Seeing this, Yoichi pulls out a plushie that he secretly bought for her from the store because he saw her checking it out, and this makes her really happy. As she promises to cherish it, Yoichi thanks her for practicing with him and says he's ready for the real date. Ibuki was so caught in the moment that she forgot that it was a fake date, so she ran away from there to hide her sadness. Just then, Hinagata shows up out of nowhere to ask if he's ready to reply to her love letter, and Yoichi says yes. He then thanks her for asking him out, but declines her proposal because he thinks only those who love each other should go out on a date. Hearing this, Hinagata backs off, admitting that she planned to eat him away slowly, but now she can finish him off quickly. She then pulls out her weapon, revealing that it was all a ruse as she starts swinging at him. Yoichi dodges all her attacks and is about to land a counter hit, but she uses her charms to distract him and hit him back. In the meantime, Ibuki is suddenly approached by two guys who try to rizz her up, noting that her current boyfriend is a lame loser. They also throw away the plushie he gave Ibuki, but this pisses her off, so she sings his praise and decides to beat up the boys. In the meantime, Hinagata leaps towards Yoichi to finish him off, but he steals her weapon and destroys her uniform with his wind burst. After she runs off crying, Yoichi spots Chihi and Kagome and tells them to come out, revealing that he knew they were watching him from the start. He then hears Ibuki's voice and rushes to help her, only to find that she's already beaten up both guys on her own. Before he can ask her anything, she suggests they go home and get dinner. Meanwhile, Hinagata's employer learns of her failure to defeat Yoichi, so he decides to send someone much stronger after him. That night, Ayame learns that Ibuki and Yoichi were on a practice date, which puts her at ease. However, she starts to panic again when she realizes there will be a real one as well. Downstairs, Yoichi joins Ibuki in the living room, and she wishes him luck on his date. However, he takes her outside and tells her that after today, he's realized that only those who love each other should go on dates, so he rejected Hinagata. He also says he might never find someone who would love him. But hearing this makes Ibuki upset because she genuinely thinks he's a good dude. The next day in school, Washizu is still gripping the handkerchief Ibuki gave him, and he's worried she'll think badly of him if he doesn't return it soon. Just then, Tori steps out of the bathroom and is about to dry his hands with it, only for Washizu to punch him away. Later, he feels bad for hitting his friend and decides to return the handkerchief right away, only to see Ibuki chasing Yoichi with a wooden sword. Turns out, Yoichi got a nosebleed in art class after seeing the plotless sculpture, and she's chasing after him to knock the gunner out of him. Washizu uses this chance to return the handkerchief, but she swings the sword and accidentally bruises him with an air burst. Washizu heads to the infirmary to get patched up and decides to leave the handkerchief in her shoe locker with a love letter. He then imagines Ibuki meeting her at the roof with said letter, and them living happily ever after. While he's daydreaming, the nurse asks Tori if Washizu hit his head on the way, but he tells her it's normal. Later that day, Ibuki and Yoichi come to the shoe locker together and find a letter from Washizu, who says Ibuki was the first one to talk to him, while everyone treated him like a delinquent. She also greeted him good morning every day with a bright smile, and he came to like her more and more. While he waits for her on the roof, hoping for a response, Yoichi shows up holding the letter, making him realize he put it in the wrong locker. But since Yoichi already knows how he feels about Ibuki, he decides to make it clear that he won't let anyone steal her from him. However, Yoichi believes he's interested in martial arts and wants to join Ibuki's dojo. Before Washizu can explain himself, Ibuki shows up too and agrees to take him in as a pupil, prompting him to accept on autopilot. On the way back, Ibuki wonders why Washizu returned the handkerchief to her, but Yoichi instead points out that their dojo will now be more lively. Suddenly, Ibuki stops to recall the days she used to hate early mornings because she used to be alone. But now she looks forward to them because Yoichi has changed so many things. As she smiles at him, he quickly looks away, thinking that she will hit him if he tells her that she looks cute. Elsewhere, a supreme swordsman named Jinjiro blows out candles with his sword, and a masked man shows up to hype him up. He then tells Jinjiro about their family's rivalry with the Ukiyas, and adds that their son Yoichi has left the mountains to spread his teachings into the world. He believes that Ukiya's fighting style is a disgrace to the samurai world, and the real combat style is what Jinjiro uses, which is why he offers him a large sum of money to eliminate Yoichi. However, Jinjiro burns the whole briefcase, declaring that he doesn't care about money and would take out Yoichi for free if what the masked man claims is true. After that, the masked man leaves in his private helicopter, certain that this time he's hired the right man for the job. Meanwhile, Washizu shows up at the dojo with Tori, who asks why they're here even though Washizu hates martial arts. Washizu angrily tells him to shut up and go home, but as Tori tries to calm him down, he suddenly gets kicked in the crotch by the other students of the dojo for blocking the entrance. This starts a brief argument between them, which is quickly dissolved when Ibuki shows up looking like a whole buffet. After Washizu admires the view, she tells the boys that these new students are her friends, but Tori says he's just tagging along. The boys realize they now have juniors in the dojo and tell them not to cause too much trouble, but Washizu is still focusing on when she called him a friend and reaches Cloud 9. As Ibuki welcomes them inside, Washizu is happy to have her teach him, but she tells him his lesson will be different because he's new. That's when he realizes that Yoichi will be the one handling him. Meanwhile, Jinjiro has already begun his journey to the city, and he is determined to send Yoichi back to the gods. At the dojo, Kagome and Chihi spend some time together discussing things, including the new additions in their dojo. There, Ibuki is teaching the boys how to swing swords, and Washizu is watching her like a lover boy. Just then, Yoichi smacks him for getting distracted, but Washizu pulls out his knuckles and decides to fight back. However, when Ibuki asks him if he's okay, he quickly hides them and goes back to being a simp. Just then, Chihi and Kagome enter the dojo and run into Tori, who says he's just here for moral support. Soon after, Ayame returns home and finds Ibuki beating Yoichi up because he trained Washizu too hard on his first day. She then gently tells him to go easy on Washizu, and Ayame gets jealous upon seeing this. Tori also helps Washizu up, and the boys make fun of him by calling him an old man. One of the boys also asks Kagome why she never comes to the dojo, and she hesitantly tells him that she's bad at sports. On the other hand, Ayame returns to her room and looks at the picture on her desk as well as her dojo uniform before turning to sleep. Meanwhile, Yoichi resumes the lesson at the dojo, and this time, he suggests Washizu train in sword swinging, since he is already very strong. He asks Washizu to do some push-ups, but Washizu complains about it being too basic. However, when Ibuki tells him that basics are important, he immediately agrees to do it. Yoichi then decides to join him in the training because he's also still a student, and while Ibuki is impressed, Washizu gets angry, thinking he's just showing off. As Chihi and Kagome go out shopping, Ayame suddenly wakes up and hears the boys doing push-ups in the dojo. After reaching 400, Washizu finally gives up, but Yoichi decides to keep going. He adds that he will punish himself for underestimating Washizu by doing double his routine. which is 1,000. He also asks Washizu to rest up, but Washizu refuses to be outshone and declares he'll do the same as Yoichi. As they begin again, Ayame stumbles into the dojo out of curiosity. That evening, as Jinjuro closes in on the city, Kagome and Chihi are in the kitchen, noting how the dojo has become lively thanks to Yoichi. Soon after, Yoichi and Washizu reach the 1,000 mark and end the training, and just as they celebrate, the girls bring them dinner. They sit together to have a big lively dinner, and Ibuki even feeds Washizu with her own hands, which makes him happy. Ayame also decides to feed Yoichi, since his arms have given up, and when he says he's happy that she came, she covers his mouth out of excitement. Ibuki is also quite happy to have such a lively environment in the dojo, but no one is aware of the fact that Jinjuro is on his way to ruin it all. A few days later, Washizu reveals he's going camping at the beach tomorrow, but Tori sees the notice and points out that the trip is today. Meanwhile, Ibuki is bathing in the sunlight while looking hotter than the sun, and she has also invited Tsubasa and Angela over because she's never been to a beach before. She imagines her Prince Charming, Washizu, showing up and playing with her, only for Ibuki to mention that Washizu was invited but didn't come. Just as Angela suggests some beach training, Yoichi shows up in nothing but a lion cloth, and while everyone else is shocked, Angela takes a good look at his main character's physique and starts getting moist. On a nearby yacht, the masked man and his sister employ the Mizunagi brothers to assassinate Yoichi while his guard is down. Meanwhile, Ayame is in the dressing room putting on her swimsuit, frustrated that her jugs don't look as big as Ibuki's. She tries to fit some cups in her plot armor, but they pop out and land in front of the door, just as Yoichi walks in to change into a proper swimsuit. Upon seeing a plotless Ayame, Yoichi freaks out, but Ayame stomps on his face and runs outside. Back at the beach, the dojo students ask Ibuki about Kagome, but when they learn she's still changing, one of the students, named Masashi, gets a little impatient. His friends point out that Masashi has been asking about Kagome a lot, and even protects her from bullies at school, but this makes the guy blush. Meanwhile, Yoichi runs after Ayame, holding her cups, but she tells him to leave her alone. Seeing this, the Mizunagi bros realize he's a moron whom they can end at any time, but a sneak attack is against their family's code, so they must try something else. Just then, one of the brothers summons his pet eagle and sends it on the hunt to test Yoichi's abilities. Yoichi senses the attack coming and quickly jumps on Ayame to move her out of the way, but then he finds himself giving a full hands-on inspection to Ayame's peaches. As she smacks him in the face, Yoichi senses the bird coming towards Tsubasa, so he quickly regains his footing and tries to pull her out of the way. However, he accidentally pulls her plot armor down, so she sends him flying with a punch. Yoichi then lands directly between Ibuki's planetary bodies, but before he can explain himself, the bird attacks again and pushes Yoichi's face into her milk factory. After this, Ibuki beats him up for being a diddler, but Angela wonders if it's just an aggressive bird or was deliberately sent by someone. Meanwhile, the Mizunagi bro feeds his bird and concludes that Yoichi is stronger than he looks, so they must proceed with caution. Later, while Yoichi is struggling to swim, both Angela and Ayame step in to help him. But this starts an argument between the two as they both call dibs on his sausage. Angela then flexes her F-cups in her face and makes her realize that she'll never win a man with those little marbles. In the end, Ibuki is the one who saves Yoichi from drowning, but after looking up at her Jupiter and Saturn, Yoichi starts to have a nosebleed. In response, Ibuki pushes his face underwater until that filth is washed from his brain. As Kagome watches from the shore, everyone asks her to join them, but she stays silent, prompting Masashi to reveal that she sits out in swimming class too. He then offers to teach her, but when she refuses, he asks if she's okay with being useless all the time. This hurts Kagome's feelings, so she runs into the forest out of embarrassment. Ibuki wonders if she has spoiled Kagome too much, but Yoichi is certain there must be a reason why she's sitting out of swimming class. However, Masashi takes the blame and promises to bring her back as he runs into the forest. Soon after, Kagome gets lost in the forest and starts to tear up, but when she accidentally steps on a slope, Masashi shows up and protects her from breaking her bones. However, they both end up stuck at the bottom, and Masashi also hurts his arm in the process. She then asks him to close his eyes, and when he does, he finds a cloth wrapped around his arm. With no way up, they start exploring the hole, unaware that it is a trap set by the Mizunagi brothers. As others wait at the beach, dark clouds suddenly form over the whole island, so Yoichi suggests they split up and look for Masashi and Kagome. After some searching, they fail to find the two, and it starts to rain as well, so the sisters feel guilty for not paying enough attention to Kagome. Yoichi tells them to greet Kagome with a smile or she will worry, and Angela reveals that she found a hole. Just then, she slips and lands directly on top of Yoichi, making both Ibuki and Ayame angry. In the cave, Kagome starts to cry and blames herself, but Masashi apologizes to her because he said too much. He also adds that he couldn't leave her alone and just wanted to help, and this makes her happy. He promises to teach her how to swim so others don't make fun of her. But before she can respond, they spot the light at the end of the cave. Mistaking it for the exit, Masashi sprints out but slips at the edge and starts hanging by a tree branch. Just then, the rest of the squad shows up, but Masashi can't hold any longer and falls into the water. Yoichi immediately jumps after him, and his selflessness impresses Ibuki, only for them to realize that he can't even swim. Just then, the Mizunagi brothers show up on jet boards and issue a duel to Yoichi. Angela notes that their boat style can be trouble because it's said to have drowned countless soldiers in naval battles. She then throws the wooden sword towards Yoichi, and while he's fighting with bros, Masashi is still drowning, prompting Kagome to jump after him. She quickly pulls him out and then tosses the sword towards Yoichi, only for the bros to summon a whole tsunami towards him. After Yoichi gets crushed underwater, the bros declare their win, but Yoichi suddenly pops out and uses his sword style to create a tornado. He then mixes it with another technique and defeats both bros with a big attack, leaving the girls in shock. Kagome then hands him a life ring so he doesn't drown, and the sisters realize she could swim from the get-go. Unbeknownst to them, this whole thing was arranged by the masked man who wanted to record Yoichi and study his moves. Later, as Ibuki dries off Kagome's hair, Yoichi thanks her for saving him and Masashi. Ibuki then asks her to take her shirt off and put on a dry one, but Kagome starts pulling until the shirt is torn. She then starts crying, revealing that she wanted to be as flat as Ayame but has now grown the peaches, and that's the reason why she didn't want to swim. That night, while everyone enjoys at the beach, Washizu and Tori reach the station but learn that all the trains have left. A few days later, Washizu is on his way to the dojo with another love letter for Ibuki, hoping to finally confess his feelings to her. Just then, some of his schoolmates pass by and get scared upon seeing him because he's still considered the strongest delinquent in the city. They see an old man asking him for directions and get worried that Washizu will guide him to your grandma's place, also called the morgue. However, Washizu helps the old man and then walks away with Tori, leaving the boys confused. Meanwhile, Washizu heads to the local store to get a drink, but Ayame suddenly grabs the same one he was about to grab. This leads to a tug-of-war between the two, but as Ayame throws some insults, more of his schoolmates walk in and are shocked to see him tolerate this nonsense, so they take a picture of him with Ayame. Later at the dojo, Ibuki announces lunch break, and Washizu decides to confess to her while she's free. He pulls out the letter, but when she praises him for his improved footwork, he gets cold feet and hides it again. Just then, Tori hands him a regular drink, and it instantly reminds him that Ayame stole his favorite drink at the store. He looks over to see Ayame holding a towel for Yoichi, because earlier, Chihi had told her that this sort of thing was sure to set him up with an idiot like Yoichi. At first, she starts blushing hard, but when Yoichi asks if she's okay, she turns sadistic to hide her embarrassment and hands him the towel, telling him to wipe that sweat off his disgusting face and leave her sight. Seeing this, Yoichi starts to cry, thinking Ayame hates him, and Ayame cowers in the corner because she blew another chance. Washizu notices this and asks her what she's trying to do, but she tells him to shut up and leave her alone. The guy turns to leave, but when he accidentally drops the love letter into her hands, he quickly tears it apart and pins her down, begging her to forget what she saw. At that moment, Tsubasa visits the dojo to deliver food, and seeing them in the default position breaks her heart. Later during dinner, Ibuki notes that Tsubasa is nowhere to be seen, so Yoichi promises to visit her restaurant and pay her for the food. Just then, Masashi notices that Kagome has run out of juice, so he gives her his own portion while blushing. After that, the boys start asking Washizu to share his food, but when he pushes them off like a normal person, Yoichi notes that he's lost his violent tendencies. Ibuki also mentions that Washizu never misses a day in school or the dojo anymore, so Chihi adds that Washizu used to be the strongest badass who destroyed Skull Union, which was the most influential group of delinquents. At that moment, Washizu has a moment of reflection, and being surrounded by people who act so lively around him makes him realize he's really gone soft. Meanwhile, Tsubasa locks herself in her room and starts crying, even refusing to let Angela in. Soon after, Yoichi shows up looking for her and tells Angela that the food was delicious, which makes her blush. Just then, some customers show up, so Yoichi decides to leave, only to stop when he hears them talk about Washizu. He then realizes these guys are from the Skull Union, and they are planning to use Washizu's soft side to take revenge. Meanwhile, Ibuki sees everyone off, but Tori stays behind because Chihi needs his help with something. Subsequently, Ayame heads to the dojo to clean up, but the guys from Skull Union show up and abduct her. Later, they drag her in front of Washizu, who acts confused, so the thugs show him a picture they took on their phone, thinking he and Ayame are dating. Washizu says he'd never crack an ugly blonde like her, so the Skull Union leader starts diddling with Ayame to ragebait him. He even threatens to do the same with the other girls at the dojo if he doesn't let them beat him up. So Washizu stands there taking all the hits to protect Ayame and the others. While he's getting beaten up, the leader mocks him by saying that he has become weak now that he has someone to protect. This reminds Washizu that he used to be a lone wolf back in the day who'd beat up anyone, but over time, he found people who cared for him and became weak, to the point that he can't even protect one girl. Just then, Yoichi comes out of nowhere and beats up the thugs who are attacking Washizu. He then threatens the leader to let Ayame go, but the man doubles down on his statement that Washizu has become weak because he now has people to care for. However, Yoichi shows the man that Washizu is still standing after taking so much beating, and he did that only because he wanted to protect those he cares for. This hits all the right strings in Washizu's heart, so he finally clenches his fist and decides to join Yoichi in beating these fools up. After all of them are down, they uppercut the leader and destroy his phone, so he doesn't misuse the pictures. Yoichi then tells Washizu that he's a great guy who helps his friends and extends a hand of friendship. Right before Washizu accepts it, Ibuki comes running in, and he immediately becomes a simp. They then notice Ayame sitting plotless, which gives Yoichi a nosebleed, earning him a beating from Ibuki. Seeing this makes Washizu jealous, so he runs off, saying he'll never be friends with Yoichi. However, Ayame runs after it and gives him a towel to wipe his wounds, but Washizu knows what she truly feels and tells her to give it to Yoichi instead. He then begins walking and runs into Tori on the way, who freaks out after seeing him bruised. However, Washizu says it's nothing, and as Ayame finally gives the towel to Yoichi, Washizu admits that having friends is not bad at all. A few days later, Ibuki helps her students fix their form, and Washizu is delighted to be a part of it. Seeing her work, he starts to imagine beating up Yoichi and winning her over, only for Yoichi to smack him in the head and snap him back to reality. Wondering why Ibuki is not teaching him personally, he begins to tear up and runs off, making Yoichi think he's a bad teacher. Outside, he washes his face, wondering why a delinquent like him has started to hesitate, so he decides to finally be done with it. He says out loud that he likes her for practice, only to find Ayame standing behind him. She is shocked and calls him slurs before running off, only for Tori to point out that she must have thought he was confessing to her instead of Ibuki. Meanwhile, Ayame is freaking out, thinking Washizu likes her, and it's the first time someone has chosen her over Ibuki. Later at the dojo, Yoichi is depressed about what happened earlier, so Ibuki asks Ayame to teach Washizu. Despite blushing hard, she accepts the job, but when Washizu tries to clear the misunderstanding, she smacks him in the face. This starts an actual fight between the two, but Yoichi and Ibuki think they're just practicing really hard. That evening, after Ibuki sends everyone off, Washiru laments over failing to confess to her and accidentally confessing to Ayame. As Tori mentions that Ayame likes Yoichi instead, Washizu spots a poster for a fireworks festival and gets hyped because he can use it to get a sloppy toppy from Ibuki. A few days later, Washizu meets her at the festival, and his heart melts when he sees her in a yakuta. Just then, Chihi mentions that the festival is too big and all the shops are far from each other, so he suggests splitting up in pair. Turns out, he and Tori have already made lots and are planning to rig them, so Ibuki pairs up with Washizu. However, Washizu somehow pairs up with Ayame, while Yoichi and Ibuki end up together. When an angry Washizu confronts Tori, he simply apologizes for mixing up numbers and leaves with his group. However, Ayame assumes he rigged the lot to purposely end up with her and calls him a cheap coward. As Yoichi is having lots of fun, Ibuki recalls how he was acting similarly during their fake date, and it makes her loins burn. She asks him if she looks good, only to look up and see that Yoichi has already run off in his excitement. Unbeknownst to him, the masked man is also at the festival, and when Yoichi runs into him, he immediately recognizes that the man is a martial artist. After confirming this, the man takes his mask off and introduces himself as Yukio, but they are distracted when Ibuki catches up to him, prompting Yukio to hide while blushing. Meanwhile, Tori's group decides to visit a pasty shop, but they run into Yukio's masked sister, Sakun, who is running a store at the festival. Meanwhile, Tsubasa is at the backstage at a haunted house, and Angela is dressed up as a cat girl whom all of you gooners must want to. Just then, they spot Ibuki outside, and Tsubasa gets anxious thinking Washizu is also here, causing her to run off. Subsequently, Yoichi gets separated from Ibuki again and ends up right next to Sakun. She asks Yoichi to play a gun game in which he has to knock down items to win them, but he's so bad that he misses all his shots. Ibuki catches up again and tries to win the grand prize, but her shot recoils off the statue. However, Sakun uses a trick to purposely throw the grand prize off the shelf, telling them that they've won a free trip to a hot spring. Meanwhile, Ayame is sad because he puts so much effort into this dress, so Yoichi would notice her, but she's instead stuck with a gag character for the rest of the event. After Washizu tells him to stop insulting him, she calls him a coward for playing dirty because he can never win from Yoichi fairly. However, he finally reveals that the confession was meant for Ibuki, and she is nothing compared to a goddess like her. Instead of arguing back like usual, Ayame silently admits that she always knew something was off and apologizes for not being as good as Ibuki. Just then, Yoichi walks by looking for Yoichi, so Washizu tells Ayame to join that idiot because that's what she wanted anyway. However, Ayame turns around with her body shaking, and Washizu doesn't understand what's going on with her. She finally summons the courage to call Yoichi, but Ibuki returns at the last second and scolds him for leaving her behind again. Seeing this, Ayame notes that Ibuki is better than her, so Yoichi would naturally go for her. This makes Washizu realize what he said was messed up, so he bows to apologize and admits he was being a coward. He refuses to keep watching from the sidelines and asks Ayame to shoot her shot too as he drags Ibuki away from Yoichi. Yoichi doesn't understand what's going on, so he asks Ayame to walk with him, and she agrees on the condition that he carries her bag. The two then walk together holding one end of the bag, and Ayame is blushing because this is an indirect way of holding hands for her. Meanwhile, Washizu finally stops running and looks back to see a deformed ghost, only to later learn that he had accidentally grabbed Tsubasa's hand, who was doing makeup for a haunted house. While he's lamenting, Ayame shows up to put salt on his wound, but he assumes she confessed to Yoichi, which makes her flustered. She then starts arguing with him like before, and Yoichi and Ibuki assume that they've gotten closer. Ibuki then tells everyone she won a trip to a hot spring, not realizing that it is a setup from Yukio, who is desperate to give backshots to Ibuki. A few days later, the squad reaches the hot spring resort and is shocked to learn that it's more premium than a 5-star restaurant. After taking in the view, Yoichi decides to go for a walk, so the girls stay back to check out the hot spring. When Chihi teases him by asking him to join, Yoichi gets flustered and runs off. Once in the forest, he sees a squirrel, and it reminds him of all the animals and his life at the mountain. Meanwhile, the girls make full use of the resort, and while playing table tennis, they realize that the whole resort has no guests besides them. Just then, Ayame scores the winning point, but Ibuki uses his martial arts to save it, prompting Ayame to leave in frustration. In the evening, Yoichi also enjoys the hot spring when he's suddenly joined by Yukio. After Yoichi recognizes him, they start talking about stuff, and Yoichi says he's still in training to become a true warrior. He also shares that he's currently living with Ibuki, who is the owner of a dojo, so Yukio asks how he keeps his little Johnny tamed when he's living under the same roof as girls. Yoichi admits it's been hard, but the girls treat him like family, which helps him stay focused. However, Yukio says that a real family works together, but he's a selfish person who's focused on his own training. He then tells Yoichi that he's a deadweight as he disappears before his eyes. Meanwhile, Ayame stumbles into an aquarium in the resort, which she finds weird. Later, she joins the others for dinner and learns from the caretaker that they haven't had any guests lately. She reveals that there used to be a jail near the resort, but all the prisoners were rumored to have turned into ghosts. Recently, these ghosts have been causing trouble, and because of that, guests have stopped coming. After the squad has finished eating, Yoichi approaches the old lady and promises to take care of said ghosts as a thank you for the food. Hearing this, Ibuki offers to join him in his Ghostbusters quest, unaware that Chihi is eavesdropping. She immediately snitches to Ayame, who acts like she doesn't care, and also tells herself that ghosts aren't real. However, Chihi tells him it's the perfect chance for her to act like she's scared and hug Yoichi. Now tempted, Ayame goes after her lover boy, but after she leaves, the room fills up with pink fog, which knocks out Chihi. Turns out, It was all a setup from Yukio and the old lady, who wanted to single out Chihi. The old lady then reveals herself to be Sakon in disguise, and Yukio thanks her for helping him swipe Ibuki's V card. Unaware of this, Ibuki and Yoichi arrive at the cave that was supposed to be a jail, but as soon as they step in, the floor breaks beneath their feet. After Yoichi regains his footing, he loses Ibuki but finds Ayame at the bottom, who admits she got lost and is scared. She also thanks him for saving her, but Yoichi starts blushing because she is usually very loud and obnoxious like your ex. Following that, she immediately locks Yoichi into a hug, but when Yoichi says they have to find Ibuki, she blushes and begs him to warm up her vocal cords before they do anything else. After throwing him down, she tells him to look at her and exposes her plots, leaving the guy confused. Meanwhile, Ibuki finds herself in a different part of the cave and is approached by Yukio, who says he's excited to see her. However, Ibuki doesn't recognize him at all, and he drops to his knees as he realizes that his master plan has failed. To make it worse, she asks for his help in looking for Yoichi, so he points towards Ayame, who's developing a plot with Yoichi. Yukio believes she will become vulnerable and let him hit it. But Ibuki thinks ghosts are playing tricks on her. She confidently declares that Ayame would never get freaky in public. And just then, Yoichi pushes off Ayame, thinking it's a ghost playing a trick on him. He also says that Ayame is super shy and would never do this, also adding that her jugs aren't as big in reality. Hearing this, Ibuki beats him up but also praises him for realizing that the real Ayame wouldn't be so indecent. Ayame then joins with Yukio and removes her disguise to reveal Sakon underneath. She then prays the same pink gas in the cave, which immediately knocks Ibuki out and freezes Yoichi in place, prompting Yukio to reintroduce himself as Ibuki's fiancé. He also accuses him of freeloading off the Ikaruga family and erasing Ibuki's memories, not accepting that she genuinely doesn't remember him. Despite wanting to end Yoichi here, he tells him to return to the mountain he came from and begins walking away with Ibuki in his arms. However, Yoichi yells that he won't let him take Ibuki away, so Yukio tells him to return to the inn so they can solve this issue like real men. Still unable to move completely, Yoichi screams before grabbing his sword and slowly making his way out of the cave. Eventually, he returns to the inn to find a mask at the entrance, so he starts looking around for the girls, only to get ambushed by Hinagata. Before a weakened Yoichi can process anything, Yoichi unleashes a horde of assassins on him, but he uses his tornado attack to send them flying. He then sees Yukio escaping, so he chases after him to the aquarium, where he is attacked by the Mizunagi bros. Despite being in their domain, Yoichi uses his storm technique to defeat them and continues his search. He eventually finds Chihi and Kagome knocking out on a bench, but he's ambushed by dozens of assassins again. Still weakened, Yoichi drops to his knees when Jinjuro shows up and tells everyone to let him handle this fool. He then pulls out his sword to finish Yoichi off with a single attack, but the real Ayame suddenly appears and drops the man into the water. She then steps up to defend Yoichi, but the guy asks her to leave her behind and protect her sisters instead. However, when Ayame reminds him of his own motto to never give up, Yoichi regains his will and takes out the assassins. Following that, all four of them rush to the resort to find Ibuki in a room with all her memories wiped. The following day, the squad returns to the dojo, but Ibuki has had a regression in her personality and starts looking for her parents. After she finds the place empty, Ayame reminds her that their parents are out training, and the only people here are they and Yoichi. Ibuki immediately assumes he's come here to destroy the dojo and slam him against the wall. She then goes around looking for her parents, and Chihi realizes the regression must have happened due to some drug Yukio gave her. As they contemplate taking her to the doctor, Ibuki spots Kagume's art project and starts crying over Ayame. When Ayame shows up, Ibuki believes she's a fake one, because the Ayame she remembers was short and flat as a table. As Kagome grabs her broken art project from the floor, Ibuki asks who she even is because Ibuki only remembers having two sisters. Kagome grabs onto her to remind her that they're sisters, but Ibuki gives her a cold look and asks who she is, breaking the poor girl's heart. Ayame gives Ibuki a scolding for being mean, but Chihi suddenly steps in and reminds Ayame that Ibuki's mind has regressed to the time Kagome wasn't born. After the scolding, Ibuki starts to cry and runs off while Kagome locks herself in her room. Later, Yoichi walks up to Ibuki and offers some words of comfort before telling her that she's lost her memories and he'll help her regain them. He then extends his hand and asks Ibuki to come with her, and she reluctantly grabs her hand. Meanwhile, Tsubasa learns from Angela that Ibuki's personality has regressed, so she immediately leaves to check up on her. Afterward, Angela does some calculations to see where they're at with money, only to be visited by someone familiar. Back home, Ibuki has dinner with the others, but when she spills some of the soup, Kagome grabs a tissue and starts to wipe the table. Afterward, the little one takes care of the dishes and asks Chihi if Ibuki will ever get better. Later, Ayame joins Yoichi after tucking Ibuki in bed, and he tells her that Yukio claimed to be Ibuki's fiancé. She claims to know nothing about it, but Yoichi is certain Yukio wasn't lying. He can't wrap his head around why Yukio drugged her, but in any case, they need to find Yukio and revert Ibuki to normal. Ayame then asks him what he will do if Ibuki ends up marrying Yukio, hoping to use this as a chance to confess to him. However, she starts to get nervous and leaves. The next day, Ibuki teaches her pupils, but ends up beating them too hard because of her condition. So Yoichi apologizes to them and sends them home. When he returns to the dojo, Ayame is screaming at Ibuki for going too far and learns that Ibuki almost murdered Chihi with a pair of scissors. While Chihi is holding her back, Yoichi suddenly steps in, asking Ibuki not to play with sharp objects and to apologize. However, Ibuki breaks down asking why she is getting scolded by strangers in her own house, and tells everyone to get out. Just then, Yukio arrives at the door with his sister, and Yoichi immediately grabs him by the collar. Later, Sakan reveals that only she has the antidote to Ibuki's condition, and she won't give it to them if they report to the police. Yukio then reveals that the drug Ibuki was given was supposed to revert her to her happiest stage, and since she's acting like a little girl now, this means she hasn't been happy for a long time. Meanwhile, Ibuki starts following a cat outside, just as Washizu and Tori are coming in for their lesson. They see her crying at the front gate, and when Washizu tells her to go inside, she hugs him and says she don't want to go home. She then tells Washizu to take her somewhere else, and the man immediately busts a fat one. Inside, Washizu convinces everyone that it's not good for Ibuki to live here, and they should let him take her away. When Ayame argues that she never heard of their engagement, Washizu reveals it's because it was decided personally. He also adds that the antidote will take a couple of months to complete, and he promises to take good care of everyone during that time. He then brings out several maids and hot butlers for the dojo to bribe the sisters. Meanwhile, Washizu takes Ibuki to the playground where he builds sandcastles with her. He and Tori notice that she's acting very strange, and Tori suggests they go to the dojo to find out. As Washizu turns to stop him, Ibuki grabs his hand and politely asks him not to leave her. Back at the dojo, while the sisters are getting royal treatment, Yukio talks to Yoichi in private, accusing him of fiddling with Ibuki's memories. He also accuses Yoichi of freeloading off the sisters, so he has arranged a separate place for him to stay. Just then, Angela appears and asks him if he'd like to join her dojo, and Washizu adds that he'll fund it if Yoichi agrees. With this difficult choice, Yukio and her maids leave the dojo just as Tori reaches. Meanwhile, a butler approaches Ibuki in the playground and forces her to come with him. But when Washizu tries to save her, the butler knocks him out with a taser. Ibuki is then forced into the car and knocked out with a drug, while Yoichi makes up his mind and tells the sisters that he's joining Angela and Tsubasa's dojo. Despite being hurt, Ayame acts like a typical tsundere and tells him to skedaddle. She then notices that Kagome is missing and finds her crying in her room while clutching the art project Ibuki helped her fix. Seeing her cry for her sister, Yoichi asks Angela to give her one more day because he wants to make one last attempt to bring Ibuki back. Seeing his resolve, all three of them join him on his mission, while Tsubasa carries a knocked-out Washizu on his back. Meanwhile, Sakan finds it amusing that Yukio lied about the drug's effects to manipulate the sisters. Later, the creep is watching her sleep, delighted that he succeeded in his mission. However, Ibuki starts calling out names in her sleep, including Yoichi's, much to Yukio's frustration. Soon after, the squad reaches Yukio's residence, but its place is surrounded by water, and there's no bridge leading to it. Yoichi then creates a raft using his skills, and all of them board it to get to the residence. Sakan sees this and immediately informs Yukio, so he asks Sakan to chase them away. In the meantime, the squad reaches the residence and sneaks in, only to come in front of Sakan. She tells him to come some other day because Yukio is getting married to Ibuki today, but when the squad persists, Sakan calls her maids to destroy them. As the maids rain bullets, Yoichi defends the sisters by deflecting them all, so Sakan tries to knock them out with her drug. However, Yoichi uses his wind burst attack to foil her plans before grabbing her arm and asking her to return Ibuki. He appeals to her humanity by reminding her that she's also someone's sister, but Sakan slaps him in the face, revealing that her brother was taken from her long ago. She then steps back and challenges Yoichi to take Ibuki back by force, leaving the man with no other choice. As the squad progresses, they face a whole army of butlers, but Yoichi uses his sword techniques to defeat them. Ima and Chihi also play their part, but the butlers just keep coming. Eventually, Yoichi is knocked out and surrounded, but when all hope seems lost, Washizu makes a grand entrance and saves him. Tsubasa also joins them in the quest, and when Seikon sends more of her men towards them, Washizu starts to worry. However, Tori throws the start first towards Washizu, and Angela also appears to back Tsubasa up. Just when things seem normal, Sakon destroys the bridge in half, separating Washizu, Tsubasa, and Angela from the others. As they get overrun by the guards, Angela strips Sasuba's plot armor and activates her raid boss mode, allowing her to single-handedly destroy them all. Meanwhile, the others make their way inside but end up at a dead end, so Chihi uses her anime-rotted mind to find the way. Subsequently, Yukio recalls how he fell in love with Ibuki the first time he saw her. She was much stronger than he in martial arts, so Yukio promised to become stronger and asked her to wait for her, to which she agreed. Now that he's become stronger, he is ready to marry Ibuki, but Sakon believes this is not the right way to do this. Hearing this, Yukio gets upset, thinking she's against this marriage, but she says their enemies are on the way, and it's best to reschedule it. However, Yukio is desperate to get a sloppy toppy tonight, so he insists on marrying Ibuki right now. Just then, the squad appears and demands that he give Ibuki up, but Yukio claims only he can keep Ibuki happy. Yoichi says he never claimed that he could make her happy, because even he knows Ibuki will only be happy around her family. His words resonate with both Sakon and Ibuki, so Yukio quickly escapes and leaves the samurai in Sakon's care. Sakon tells them she will never make an antidote because Yukio's happiness is the most important to her, but Ayame notices that she's crying. Yoichi adds that even Sakon has realized that her brother is wrong, and Chihi tells her she will never be happy by lying to herself. This makes her drop to her knees, and she begs Yoichi to stop her brother. Yoichi then follows Yukio to the rising platform on the roof of the building and challenges him to a duel like a true martial artist. This reminds Yukio of how he lost his way in the chase for money, so he accepts Yoichi's duel and demonstrates his super powerful dragon flash. Yoichi counters it with a single attack, and at that moment, Yukio develops massive respect for Yoichi. Due to the impact of the attack, Ibuki regains her memories, but the roof breaks and she begins falling down. As everyone jumps after her, Yoichi leaps down and uses his sword to create a tornado that cushions their fall. As Ibuki returns to normal, Kagome shows her the half-broken art project and she promises to fix it once they get home. A few days later, things return to normal, and Yoichi sends a letter to his father, telling him that he'd like to stay here for longer so he can learn new things from them. That's it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more recaps. Also, watch this video on the screen.